What's up, guys? Look, today I want to talk a little bit about Kratom. Before we get started, I want you to understand that this video is for information purposes only. I am not giving you advice. I'm not telling you how to taper or anything like that, or that you should be on Kratom or you shouldn't be on Kratom, okay? What I want you to do is talk to your doctor, have an addiction specialist who is helping you in your recovery. This is essential, guys, okay? So, all right, there we go. So the other thing I want you to understand is this, all right? When we're talking about like these ideas of medications that might be helpful or a way to taper or a way to stop this or stop that, we're kind of talking in generalities, meaning it's something that probably works for the majority of people, but there's obviously always going to be the exceptions. You might be the exception. I'm always going to have people comment on a video and say, I did the exact opposite of what you said, and it worked better for me. Okay, great. I'm glad it worked. The point is, just because something works for somebody else doesn't mean it'll work for you. So what we're trying to do is use methods, okay, and learn methods that are safe and effective for the majority of people, because that's going to be, the best bang for your buck, right? Okay, so now, also, caveat, most people who come to me, it's because they are addicted to opiates, or they're addicted to Kratom, or they're addicted to buprenorphine, okay? So they're coming to me to help me, for me to help them get off of those things, all right, in whatever way it is, or to just live a healthier life, right? So when I'm talking about transitioning from Kratom to Suboxone, it's not because I think Suboxone's better or safer than Kratom. It's because people are coming to me, they're addicted to Kratom. Like, they're using more and more amounts, they're having negative effects to their life, and yet they can't stop using it. That's addiction, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. Now, could Kratom be useful in coming off of opiates? Yes, I do think so. So Kratom is like a partial opiate agonist. It hits these different opiate receptors in different ways. And it has a little bit longer half-life than your typical opiates that people are using, like oxycodone and hydrocodone. So anytime you have a longer half-life, it means it's kind of easier to transition over to that thing and to taper on that. Now, buprenorphine has a longer half-life than Kratom, and that's why sometimes buprenorphine is more effective than Kratom if you're addicted to Kratom. Does that make sense? All right, so if you're on short-acting opiates, you can't get off, then I think Kratom would be a reasonable attempt to try to transition to Kratom to then taper off of that. Again, I would always recommend this be done with a doctor's help, all right? Even though Kratom might be legal where you're at. So, you transition over to Kratom, you still might need something in addition, like clonidine or medical cannabis or something like that, all right, to help blunt some of the other opiate withdrawal effects, especially as you taper down the Kratom. Now, if you get stuck on Kratom and you can't seem to stop it, then maybe that's when you might consider going over to buprenorphine. But again, most of the folks that I'm transitioning from Kratom to buprenorphine, it's because they're taking massive amounts of Kratom. And so we can get them on, 8 to 16 milligrams of buprenorphine a day. They're stable, they're fine, they're living a normal life. Then we can start to taper that in the future. Obviously, any of these things are extremely hard to just stop, right? They all have addictive potential, whether it's buprenorphine, whether it's Kratom. But if you're using it medicinally, you are not substituting one thing for another. That is the wrong way of thinking about it. What we're trying to do is to get clean. We're trying to get off of the substance that is ruining your life and getting on a substance that you can be stable at, that can then be monitored and treated and managed and possibly lowered over time as your body and your brain heals. During that process of stabilization, you can focus on all the other things in your life that you have royally screwed up. You can get some of your relationships going. You can get your job going. You can start saving money again. You can work on the bad habits that lead you to relapse. You can work on the triggers. You can work on the psychology. You can do all that when you're in that stabilization period. Then When you and your doctor feel like it's a good time, you can start to taper down. Now, some people will start to taper right away. That's fine if that's what you and your doctor have decided, that's the best course for you. But I always find it interesting when I have people say, you don't have to do a long taper of buprenorphine, you can just come off of it quickly. And then they'll say something like, I've done that 5 times in the past. And I'm thinking, well, why have you had to do it 5 times? It's because they kept relapsing after. So you got to be careful with the advice you get from people, you know? So what I want is people to be stable. And when they're in that stabilization period, we work on all the other stuff. That is important. That is your base. That is what's going to keep you clean, okay? Having a life that you don't want to be destroyed from addiction will help you stay clean. But if you're in addiction, you're in active addiction, we gotta get you stable. We might use Kratom, we might use buprenorphine, we might use methadone, you might use something else, whatever. As long as you're working with your doctor, your addiction experts, your counselors, whatever it is, as long as you're going through that process, I think you're gonna be okay. Get stable, then taper. That is, I would say 99% of the times, that's my advice. Get stable, then worry about the taper. A lot of folks, they're active addiction, the first thing they're thinking is, I just got to get off of everything. That might work, but in my experience, if I can get people stable and I can get them to build a life that they don't want ripped out from under them, they will be more likely to succeed long term in coming off of everything and not relapsing. Again, this is not medical advice for you. I don't know who's watching this. I don't know exactly what you've struggled with and where you're coming from. I'm just telling you general principles that seem to work. And whether that's Suboxone to Kratom to medical cannabis, or whether that's opiates, fentanyl, perks, to buprenorphine, however, whatever we utilize in the process is not as important as the entire picture, okay? Obviously, some medications work better than others. Buprenorphine is great at getting people stable. It is extremely hard to stop and to come off of. I get that. I realize it. That doesn't mean it's the devil, okay? It just is what it is. Now, all right, that's it for this video, guys. Hope y'all have a great day. Peace.